Zach Whitman's Chief Data Scientist at GSA. It's great to see you again. Thanks for doing this. Congratulations on rolling out the chatbot that employees across GSA are using. How big is the cohort of folks that are working on it, and what's kind of the core of what you're going for?
Yeah. The chatbot was a big lift, a huge multifaceted team across GSA. We're all collaborating on trying to build out something that we could empower the employee base with tooling. We had spent about a year testing out public tools and on non-sensitive use cases to understand the dynamics of how a chatbot would interface with our daily workflows. And from that study and repeated pilots, we found that a chatbot would solve around 70 to 80% of the basic use cases that we're seeing for general drudge reduction, productivity enhancements, just things to make your quality of life a little bit better. To begin to help folks just draft documents, get bullet points across. The amount of small minutes you can save across a day or a week with something like this has really added up, and we've seen a tremendous response. Right now, we rolled it out across all of GSA for everyone to have access to, and we've seen a passive adoption of that tool to the point where we're at around 30% of the entire workforce using it on a regular basis, which is something that I think we're excited about. We're also still trying to normalize, is that a good number, or is that something we want to push up, or how does that actually work with the dynamic? And so we've been in a very active study and research phase as we've rolled out these tools, and it's been really exciting.
How do you take feedback from people that are using it to determine what they like about it, what they don't like, and what could be better? And do you do any kind of discussion with the people who aren't using it to ask them why they're not and what might entice them to use it?
Yeah, so feedback's the name of the game for us. We have a number of different modes for which people can provide us feedback. The most direct one is within the chatbot itself. We have the ability for the user to provide feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you not like about it? What do you like about it? We also had, we built out an email address so that people can reach out to us directly. We're also a small enough team that we're all kind of looking at the email and passing around the notes and the feedback. We get a ton of feedback for API access. A lot of developers see the potential in enhancing that. And so we've been piloting API access to direct models and seeing what that can do to augment workflows. And it's really exciting to see the creativity that's coming forward, people plugging it into their IDEs, the way in which they write code, plugging it into RPA processes to see if they can augment and better contextualize the data as it flows through an already set pipeline. So it's been all over the place in terms of the adoption, and I think that's really exciting to see that organic demand kind of materialize in a very real and palpable delivery of better mission.
Have you gotten any feedback that you weren't expecting, or any people saying, I wish it did this, and your team says, oh, we never thought about that as a possibility?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the volume of demand for like API access was surprising. We thought, this would solve the majority of the problems that we saw from the original case study. But what we failed to at least predict more focusedly is the fact that we're seeing this employee base mature rapidly into this technology and starting to find ways in which they want to further automate it. And folks are thinking in these kind of modular senses where if I plug in AI here, it could build an efficiency for a next step of the process, which then they start to think about how they can build more efficiently. And so that maturation and of the adoption of this tool it was something that we didn't predict.
I want to say 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago now, GSA was kind of on the edge of robotic process automation across government. Right. Did that give you any kind of a leg up, either that the workforce was kind of already acclimated to the idea of using tools like this, or some of the research and development that you did? Was any of that helpful, or is this technology so different that you were kind of starting from scratch in the process that you described?
No, I think there's definitely like us having a foothold in that RPA has kind of brought that mindset to the forefront, because there are scenarios where folks were starting to lean into that and finding efficiencies that were already thinking in that direction. But I'll also say that GSA employee base was, I'd say, reflective of the general federal landscape in terms of just very active learners, folks who are interested and always looking to find an efficiency in their process. Everyone's always trying to do better, and they're very mission-centric, and this tool really allows them to focus on the deeper, more interesting problems and offset some of the more banal routine processes as a starting point. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's really exciting, because Once we've gotten past that phase, we start thinking about like how can we delve into the deeper mission delivery and augment and further create higher order thinking on all these problems.
I read the press release when this came out, and you talked in that press release about the fact that this is just a starting point.
Yeah.
What do you want to add, or how will you respond to the feedback that you're getting to add, build, evolve, whatever the term is that you want to apply to it?
Yeah, so we know that we need to make sure that we are keeping in close contact with the things like deep research or like long-term agentic plays, and that's where we're starting to think, how can we start to string together these processes into an agentic flow, where you start to see these pipelines become really efficient, but also really impactful and flexible in the interfaces that they're dealing with. The other part of it would be connecting to your data stores. We're taking a very cautious step-by-step approach in that. And a big part of the success of this program has been in our monitoring and our evaluation of the quality of the tools. As we add more and more foundation models into the system, we need to be able to be very clear about what is the performance of each model in all of its different facets of the types of questions that are being asked of it. Mm-hmm. Procurement questions, HR questions, PBS specific questions. These are all domain specific functions for GSA, and to be able to quantify the accuracy and precision of those responses for each model is really critical for empowering this workflow with good tooling, not just tooling, right? And so our main focus has been on expanding the availability of models, making sure that we have leading foundation models, but also being to constrain their use based on the evaluation frameworks that tell us how good this response is for this type of question.
You mentioned some of the specific questioning that you're at least thinking about, and I imagine seeing the results of also. Do you have a sense, or is there a way to have a sense of which parts of the main three parts of GSA, OGP, FAS, and PBS are using it, or how they're using it? Is that transparent to you guys?
Yeah, so the telemetry was a big part. So how users are engaging with the tool and then how their tool is responding is critical for us to understand, one, how good that tool is at answering specific questions, but also what types of questions are most important to our users and where we need to augment with additional resources, be that fine-tuning or RAG-based support. So when do you need to bring in a new tool? When do you need to bring in new data? When do you need to bring in new models? It's all predicated on the functional use of that model. These models are great. They have tons of safety controls that we are leveraging and testing routinely, just like we would any kind of functional evaluation. But it's hard for each of these foundation models to handle the domain-specific expertise that GSA employees bring to bear. So melding together the foundational models with the subject matter folks within GSA, PBS, OGP, FAS, TTS, allows us to really scale up and begin to make a much greater impact with these tools. It's really about combining those subject matter folks with the tooling is where this truly shines.
Zach, it's great to have you here again. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.